What's important about this Deep Decarbonization Initiative is that it involves faculty from across UC San Diego. So for example, we have people working in policy in addition to myself, folks like Jen Burney, who's a professor at Global Policy and Strategy, does a lot of work on how the world is going to decarbonize in the most remote, rural, poor areas. We have people in economics, for example, Mark Jacobson, one of the world's leading experts on transportation policies. In engineering, we have Carlos Coimbra, Jan Kleisel, who are doing a lot of work on renewable energy and the integration of renewable energy into the electric power grid. Shirley Mung, who is doing work on advanced battery chemistry, so really frontier work on how new chemistries could allow totally different kinds of batteries. Bill Torrey is leading an effort to test some of those batteries at scale, connect them to the actual microgrid. Byron Washam oversees the operation of a campus microgrid, which has really been designed now, in addition to providing reliable electricity on campus, is designed to allow people to test different technologies, so large-scale battery systems, other kinds of modern technologies that could really transform how microgrids and how the entire electric power system actually operates. Steve Mayfield is doing an enormous amount of work on substitutes for oil, which is one of the most important and difficult questions. And then I think what's important here is that in addition to the folks who are working on energy systems, advanced energy systems, the policies surrounding advanced energy systems, we also have the benefit of working closely with the Scripps Institution of Oceanography. And there are teams of folks who are working on questions around how climate is going to actually affect societies and natural ecosystems. Falk Feddersen, for example, doing work on the impacts of sea level rise on coastal zones. Dan Kahan doing similar work, and also work on extreme events like fires. And so, and we need to work closely with those kinds of scholars, because the task they're trying to address is how will societies and nature deal with the impacts of climate change? And what we're trying to do is lessen those impacts. So both sides of the equation need to work side by side. And then finally at Scripps, there are also scholars led by Ray Weiss and Ralph Keeling who are measuring the atmosphere, trying to understand what and how it goes into the atmosphere. Can we measure changes in the atmosphere? And some of their colleagues are working on particular species, chemical species, that have a big impact on climate change, and where we now actually have the potential to make huge progress. So Kim Prather and Ram Ramanathan do a lot of work on particles. And to me, what's interesting as a political scientist is we now know that small particles have a big impact on the climate, and they've been finding lots of ways to measure them better, and then also to make big reductions in those.
So in addition to the folks that David named, there's also a number of faculty in engineering from control theory who are interested in how one integrates large amounts of time-varying renewable energy into a reliable, predictable electricity grid. This is people like Jorge Cortez, Sonia Martinez, Ray DeCalifan, and so on, who are working on that problem. And then there's a few of us in engineering who work on nuclear fusion, which is an attempt to take abundant fuel in seawater and turn it into helium, and in the process of doing so release large amounts of energy without producing long-lived radioactive wastes.
I think when you take a step back and look at this, an incredible number of people working on these issues. And so Farhat Beg, for example, leads the Center for Energy Research, which is a unit on campus that helps bring together lots of scholars working on new energy systems. There's also a Center for Global Justice that's looking at some of the ethical implications of changes in policy and changes in energy technology. And so it's an extraordinary time to be doing this.